Fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Well, it's mid-January here in New Jersey, and the fall striper run continues. I'm Jim Hutchinson with the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, and I know it might not be hot and heavy, but through this past weekend in Ocean and Monmouth County in particular, we still had stripers popping up in mini blitz conditions along the beaches. And I said that, Ocean and Monmouth County, where these fish were piling on bunker, peanuts and adult, and herring and rainfish. Meanwhile, we go down into South Jersey and that same thing along the 3-mile line inside from Cape May down to about Indian River or so. And that was into this weekend. Of course, then things turned real cold this week, and it's really been hard to get too much in terms of the reports. So let's start with Saturday, January 8th. That's when I got text from several people in Ocean County. One of them was my my antagonistic buddy, Al Gonzo, because I couldn't fish on Saturday. So Al was out until dusk. So he did me a favor and he sent me a photo by phone text of every fish he caught. I had 15 photos from him. So he was into a mini blitz of striped bass of various sizes. He said they were up to 32 inches. But he did tell me that of all those 15 images, he didn't even send me a photo of every one of those stripers he caught, not all of them. Tom at Fisherman's Den in Belmar, we'll start a little bit to the north. When we spoke on Monday, he told me they're still getting blackfish at the mouth there of Shark River Inlet. Of course, he said the boats, the head boats like the big Mohawk, are still picking away at the tog along the offshore grounds, inshore offshore grounds. But Tom at Fisherman's Den did say that there were a surprising number of striped bass still in the back in the river, off limits, of course. We've talked about that quite a bit. But that's also been leading to a few catches out front as well. So he said the guys are still catching a few, those folks who are braving the elements. But again, that was through this weekend before we hit the cold snap. Jason at Fisherman Supply in Point Pleasant, he told me on Monday, while it may sound crazy, they had a full throttle bass blitz at the Pocket in Point on Sunday. He too reported stripers on the beach in good numbers from Brick Beach to Manasquan Inlet. Jason said the bass were on peanuts, herring, rainfish, and he reported that the Yazori twitch baits, that inshore twitch bait, was all the rage with folks that were fishing over the weekend and getting in on some of those stripers. As far as the tog action, he said they seem to be pushing a little bit closer in towards the Seagirt Reef, although he did have one report from a guy who had a pretty impressive catch last week at Axel Carlson. He also reported that anchoring up out there, he got into some stripers and saw bluefin on the grounds as well. In terms of those bluefin heading into 2022, I mean, we're 2 weeks into the new year, and I guess there's still bluefin tuna around. If there's all that bait, why not? The last report that I had substantiated from somebody who caught one was Nick DeGennaro from High Flyer, also on the Mushin, but I believe he was on High Flyer about 2 weeks ago when he had a pretty good bluefin catch. So yeah, there's still some surprises out there for those hardy souls who continue to go at it. Out of southern Ocean County, I spoke to Greg at Fish Heads in Ship Bottom on Monday. He didn't have much to report other than suggesting that surfcasters keep an eye out on the beaches from Barnegat Light to Beach Haven. Greg, too, was looking at some of those catches in across the other side of Barnegat Inlet and said, well, you know, who knows, maybe that'll pop up down here along the Barrier Island beaches of LBI. And again, what we talked about, back bays are closed to even targeting striped bass, but more on that in just a second. Because I did cover that New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council meeting, so I have an answer for some of you who have asked. A lot of shops, of course, in the Atlantic and Cape May County areas of New Jersey have gone along to their winter hours. A lot of shops will open on weekends, some on Friday. Andy at Riptide said he may open on Friday if things are good, but a lot of these folks are taking a little bit of time off to head down to Florida. I did get in touch with Dave at Absecon Bay Sportsman Center. He said that he's keeping crabs in stock as much as possible for those toggers who are heading out of Absecon Inlet. I do believe that the Osprey continues to sail out of Atlantic City, so you've got that. Now, in terms of the back bay where striped bass is closed, Dave's thinking that some of these guys, he's already said a few guys, are going on the hunt for white perch. So you think Bass River, Mullica, Great Egg, all the way down to the Morris River off of Delaware Bay. So the white perch action will kind of take place over the next couple of months, some chunky fish back there. Getting down into Cape May County, I spoke to Captain Tom Daffin of Fishin' Fever. Yes, the two-time TOG record holder in the state. He echoed some of the thoughts we've heard from other for-hire captains at the Jersey Shore and into Delaware as well. Because of that cold, it wasn't just the cold, but a lot of wind, and the weather has been kind of snotty. So because of all that, a lot of the captains are looking towards heading offshore again starting Thursday. So just as you're watching this video forecast, you can expect the doors to be open again there on the gangway planks. So if you're looking to get out on some of those headboats, be it out of Manasquan, Shark River, all the way down into Delaware, you can get back into it. Of course, the farther south you go, Delaware, Cape May County, it's predominantly blackfish. But, you know, you go out on some of those central North Jersey boats, you can expect to throw a few more porgies in the mix and also a cod in there as well. As reported this week at thefisherman.com, Lewis Harbor Marina out of Delaware reported that mojos were still taking striped bass inside the 3-mile line, and where a lot of the action up until last week was off of Cape May County. They're reporting fish down to Indian River Inlet. That's by way of Julie Stevenson and crew, who came in over the weekend there at Lewis Harbor. So those stripers are on the move, but there's still a mix of them around. We've talked about that. Striped bass, poaching, fishing licenses, general turmoil. What a fiasco. I talked about the New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council last week, and I was going to sit through that meeting. 3 hours I sat in on that meeting, and boy, oh boy, do I have some interesting meltdown and analysis for you. More on that in about 2 minutes. But first, I know a lot of folks are interested in the potential of ice fishing this time of year. I did speak to Joe at Fairfield Fishing Tackle on Monday morning. He said there was no safe ice to report at that point, but he did say, quote, people are gearing up, they're talking about it. The expectation was a little bit of this cold snap might show some safe ice for some of those ponds and lakes in North Jersey, Northwest Jersey. Kevin at Ramsey Outdoors said much the same thing. Folks are waiting for the ice to form on the local lakes and ponds, and he thought another 2-3 days at that point. That was Monday. So it might be time to go on the lookout for some safe ice. Kevin at Ramsey did say, of course, that in that open water, a lot of folks are gunning for some of those trout. He suggested fishing night crawlers, bloods, salmon eggs, and small rapalas in some of those smaller holes in some of those streams and lakes and stocked ponds if you're looking for a little trout action. More on the sweetwater, or the hardwater, as it were, with my friend George, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, big water like this is not freezing yet, but holy cow, did we get that blast of cold weather. You know, in the teens right now, nighttime temps are in the single digits. We will be building some ice here, even on Beltsville, in very short order. But I was out taking a drive this weekend. I was going around some of the other lakes, places like Tobyhanna, Big Boulder, Mauchunk. They are already starting to build ice. So I think maybe by this coming weekend, we should be able to get out and maybe start doing some holes and see if we got a good 4 inches of ice to get out and start ice fishing. You know, it's in that transition period. There's not a lot of people checking in. You can't get out on open water yet. You can't get on the ice yet. So fishing's a little bit on the slow side right now. But one guy did check in, and he was taking advantage of some open water. Shane Shurkavich, he checked in and says, George, I was out on the Susquehanna River near Harrisburg in my kayak. Now that's dedication. And he was out targeting some smallmouth, but he ended up getting a bunch of flatheads, believe it or not. He said he got about 5 in total, and there were some quality fish too, so there's always a way to get on some fish if you guys want to. But for right now, be sure you'll watch the ice. Ice fishing is just days away, guys, so get out and get on them. Be safe. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
Big striped bass bust on the Raritan Bay. Captain Jason Snellbaker with the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife Marine Enforcement called it some of the most egregious fisheries violations his crew had ever seen. That was over the course of about a month in the fall along the Raritan Bay shore. This is from the New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council meeting, which got started off a little after 5 o'clock with Jason's report on fisheries violations. Captain, Council Chairman and Captain Dick Herb, who, if I'm not mistaken, was chairing this meeting from his house in Florida last week. He asked Jason if perhaps a saltwater fishing license would help. And over the next 90 seconds, this New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council meeting officially went off the rails. Check it out.
You know, we're one of the few states without it, and I know heading down to Florida, you just don't pull stuff like this down here. Down there, you're going to...
I can tell you that in the hunting world, you have 2 violations, you lose your privileges. If you have 2 violations in a 5-year period, you lose your privileges for 2 years. And I can tell you that the hunters, it puts a great amount of fear in them when they have 1 violation, and they're out there and they're on their best behavior. And you know, if they violate that, now you're hunting on the revoked list, and it gives like another. So the mere fact that just somebody, you know, hunting or out there fishing on the revoked list would be a distinct violation. So yeah, it's quite a deterrent. The mere fact that you can't even fish at all if you have a violation, that's a significant deterrent to people.
Well, can we take away the current permit? I mean, they have to get that card. It sounds like most of them didn't even have that, right, Jason? They didn't even have a little permit.
If you want me to go down that rabbit hole with you, I'll go down that rabbit hole with you. But
no, I'm asking a question, Jason. I don't know what rabbit hole you're jumping down, but I'm not interested in
the rabbit hole. The way that regulation is written for the current saltwater registry.
Like this, I'm about having. What's the strategy, Jason?
Let him finish, right?
I've got the full write-up of that fiasco over at thefisherman.com. 3 hours of webinar wackiness, the likes of which I don't think I've seen in what I've been doing this almost 20 years, covering these council meetings. Dr. Bahanek, by the way, before leaving the meeting, up and running and out of the meeting, she did ask a good question of Captain Snellbaker. That is, if you want to revoke a person's saltwater fishing license that doesn't exist, why can't you just revoke a person's saltwater registry? Or if the fines aren't enough from stopping poachers for selling striped bass or blackfish illegally on the black market. This is an illegal, undocumented, unregulated fishery, by the way. And if they're shipping striped bass over the other side of the river to New York City, it's a Federal Lacey Act violation. So if enforcement can't tackle this because they don't have the tools, maybe it's time for the New Jersey Senate and Assembly to get together and stiffen some of the fines. Go write some legislation that makes it harder, that makes it stricter, that makes it more onerous for people who violate the law. And since this black market operation undermines the public safety and the public confidence in seafood, I mean, there are restaurants or seafood markets apparently who are selling these fish illegally. They're buying fish out of somebody's van. Isn't this a health department issue? Can't you get the state police involved? Isn't this a statewide health issue? I mean, why are you saying, oh, it's the recreational angler's fault? I mean, don't commercial fishermen want to protect their stake in selling fresh seafood at the market? Why is a commercial fisherman attacking the recreational angler and saying, hey, you know what? You need a saltwater license because we can't get a handle on the gross, egregious sales of tens of thousands of pounds of striped bass and blackfish in the illegal market. Anyway, I received a few comments to the article at thefisherman.com already. In fact, Ed wants to know, as many others do, whether law enforcement was able to track the ringleader or make a bust of the money exchanging hands. Now, my takeaway from this discussion that without a saltwater fishing license, for every angler who fishes saltwater, the enforcement officers have no idea how to track the persons responsible. So ostensibly, they have no idea who's driving the getaway van or whether illegally harvested fish are being offloaded and sold out of their van and perhaps being sold in markets as fresh grouper. In some circles, when you have a situation where enforcement can't really do their job, they don't do the job and they want something else, don't they refer to that as the blue flu? There's certainly a bit of gaslighting in the mix. That's my opinion. And it's a sad time for the restaurant industry in New Jersey to think that because guys like you and I aren't paying a saltwater fishing tax, that seafood markets and restaurants in New Jersey are buying the fish that they sell to the consumer out of the back of a van. So I've got an idea for you. If you can't prosecute fisheries violations in a standard court because you got too many father rapers and mother killers that they're settling these fisheries violations, how about if you have fish police, you have a fish court? And you convene this fish court once a month. Maybe it's hunting and fishing violations, and you have a retired judge come in and all he does is hear fisheries and hunting violations once a month, maybe down at Naked Creek where they're headquartered. And then you stream it online because everybody wants to know the names of these people who are violating our fisheries law. So you stream that meeting so all of us can sit back every third Tuesday, eat popcorn, and watch the court unfold. I think maybe the brainiacs in Trenton could come up with something like that. But I have a lot more. That recording that I shared, I have a lot more of that. And I don't know what to do with it just yet. So it's going to take me some time to write it up. And I will include it in a big feature article in the March edition of the Fisherman magazine. Stay tuned for that. The one answer I did get when I asked questions at the end of this 3-hour fiasco, I asked Captain Snellbaker the question a lot of you folks asked: if I catch legal striped bass out in the ocean, how do I transit back into the back bay with fish in the box and not get boarded and be in trouble? Good question. And here's the answer. Jason said, Captain Snellbaker said, as long as you don't stop to fish along the way in the back bay, that you're fine. So if you're coming in for the ocean with striped bass, don't stop in the back bay. Head back to port, unload your fish, and enjoy your dinner. Yes, my friends, it's colder than a ditch digger's shorts. A little milder in the weekend forecast ahead. But I got to tell you, next week's video forecast, I'm going to bring you from deep inside the Florida Keys. Sorry about that. Until then, stay warm and catch 'em up.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.